Very good afternoon to you, and thank you for finding time to be with me this afternoon. The show is Diaspora Dispatches. My name is Miriam Goto, and it is a pleasure to have you on board. And of course, on the show, we get to bring you the latest news from across the continent of Africa. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you're tuned in and watching us today. We'll start with the news from Nigeria, where police in Nigeria say they have arrested 2 suspected ringleaders in the connection with the abduction of more than 130 students from institutions in Kaduna State. Security forces launched a nationwide crackdown on criminal gangs after the kidnapping of at least 17 students from Greenfield University and 121 students from Bethel Baptist High School. The hostages have been released after payments of ransom. But 5 of the university students were shot dead while in captivity. Nearly 1,500 students have been abducted since December 2020 from schools, colleges and universities across northern Nigeria by armed gangs seeking for ransom. And then we head over to Ethiopia, and the wife of a prominent Ethiopian war general who went missing earlier this week in the capital Addis Ababa says she has confirmed he was under detention in a northern city. Brigadier General Tefere Mamo was a former commander of the Amara Special Forces that are allied to the Federal Army in its fight against rebels from the Tigray. He had been critical of the government after he was removed from his position in February. His wife, Menen Haile, had told the BBC that she has confirmed the general was under detention in Bahir Dar city, the capital of Amara region. But there are still many unanswered questions, including how he was taken there and the accusations against him. And of course, as reported by the BBC, they attempted to talk to the region's security office and the police, but the talks and the reaching out was not successful. A United Nations tribunal has announced the death of another Rwandan genocide fugitive who was among the last 5 suspects still at large. The UN's residual mechanism of international criminal tribunals said that it had determined that Fenice Munyarugarama died in 2002 in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. In a statement on Wednesday, the tribunal said it was able to conclude following a comprehensive and challenging investigation that Munyarugarama died from natural causes on the 28th February 2022. Munyarugarama, a former Rwandan military commander, had been charged with 8 counts including genocide and crimes against humanity. And Nigeria has suspended indefinitely the country's accountant general after he was arrested by anti-corruption investigators over fraud claims. The government said Ahmed Idris' suspension was meant to allow proper investigation of the claims. He was arrested after being linked to fraud, money laundering and diverting nearly $200 million from government coffers. Nigeria's Economic Crimes Agency said in a statement on Monday he is being detained by the anti-corruption agency and has not yet commented publicly on the allegations. As the Accountant General, Mr. Idris was the administrative head of the National Treasury. He has served in the role since 2015 when he was appointed by President Muhammadu Buhari. President Buhari's administration has recorded some success in its fight against the endemic corruption. Several high-profile politicians, business people and internet fraudsters, 3 of them have been jailed. And then we go to other news where #Gueye or Idrissa is a top global trend after people online have been tweeting in support of Senegalese Paris Saint-Germain football player Idrissa Gana Gueye after he refused to play for his team wearing a T-shirt with numbers displayed in pride colors. The BBC has reported on Tuesday French clubs had been invited to mark 17th May's International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia and Transphobia. Many of the tweets highlight the 32-year-old's Muslim faith and comment on the legality in the West to criticize Islam or the Quran, but what they view as the perceived lack of freedom to oppose homosexuality. However, the hashtag is also being used to spread homophobic content, and many online are angry about Gueye's reported actions and are calling calling it an insult and homophobic. Homosexuality is illegal in Senegal and punishable by a prison sentence of up to 5 years. The French Football Federation has reportedly written to Gueye to clarify why he was absent from PSG Saturday match against Montpellier, according to the AFP news agency. And the president of Senegal, President Macky Sall, I think also tweeted in support of this player. He is from Senegal. Okay. And we head over back to Nigeria, where the Federal High Court of Nigeria yesterday denied a bail request for IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu, who is standing trial, accused of terrorism and broadcasting falsehoods. The charges against Mr. Kanu, who leads a band group in Nigeria called the Indigenous People of Biafra, are linked to broadcasts he made in support of the succession of the mainly Igbo-speaking region of southeast Nigeria. 5 years ago, while Mr. Kanu was on bail, he fled the country, but he was controversially captured last year, reportedly from Kenya, and taken back to Nigeria. Despite low-level clashes in the southeast, the pro-Biafran movement says it was attacked by armed Islamist groups and government security forces. The conflict has displaced millions and increased recruitment into armed groups. The escalating attacks, including widespread killings, rapes, and pillaging of goods, according to the report. The conflict began in 2016 and has since destabilized nearly the entire Sahel region. But Burkina Faso has seen the worst of the violence and conditions are deteriorating. Nearly 600 people are killed between January and April of this year, triple the number in the same period in 2021. According to the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, the number of people displaced has also risen, reaching more than 1.8 million by the end of February of this year, a more than 4% increase since the end of January. In addition, terrorist groups, government security forces have become increasingly abusive and subjected civilians to unlawful killings and abductions, the report has indicated. And then we head over to Togo, where around 15 assailants were killed during a terrorist attack last week in the north of Togo that also left 8 soldiers dead. That is according to a minister who said today. Togo's troops are deployed in the north of the country to try and contain a jihadist threat pushing through from Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, where militants linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group operate. In the early hours of May 11th, about 60 gunmen on motorcycles launched a violent terrorist attack on a military post in Kipin Kankadi, near the border with Burkina Faso, killing 8 Togolese soldiers and wounding 13, the government said at the time. Togo Security Minister General Damehame Yak on Tuesday evening said that according to well-informed sources, there were about 15 people in the group of attackers. And we head over to Niger, issue to do with also insecurity and terrorism. And Niger's president has said Mali's withdrawal from the G5 Sahel multinational force created to fight Islamist militants will mark the end of the alliance. President Mohamed Bayoum made the remarks in an interview with French Daily La Croix. Bazoum said Mali's isolation was undermining the fight against the insurgents. Bamako this week announced it was quitting the G5 Sahel after being blocked from assuming the group's rotating presidency. It blamed the state outside the region for trying to foment divisions among the member states. Created in 2014, the alliance, which also includes Mauritania, Chad, Burkina Faso and Niger, was to help the countries jointly tackle Islamist militants. Since 2020, Mali's ties with former colonial ruler France have continued to deteriorate. This month, Bamako ordered French troops off its soil, prompting condemnation from Paris. And then we end our bulletin this afternoon from South Sudan. President Salva Kiir has relieved the deputy governor of Jonglei State, Antipas Nyok, and replaced him with the Red Army veteran Jacob Akech Dengdit. The decree read out by the state-owned South Sudan Broadcasting Corporation SSBC did not cite any reason behind the sacking of the second most powerful person in Jonglei State. However, differences between Nyok and opposition-nominated Governor Dene Chagor have have been making headlines in the media, as New York has reportedly refused to cooperate with his boss. Governor Chagor was appointed in the SSOA ticket, whereas New York came in SPLM-IG ticket. The working relations between the two has kept getting worse. All right, so you're now up to date with the latest news from across the continent of Africa, and as usual, a lot of it has to do with insecurity. You've seen there's a rise of jihadist attacks in Burkina Faso compared to, the end of 2021, just halfway, nearly halfway to this year, and already a lot of, murder has been recorded between January and April this year. Nearly 600 people have been killed in parts of Burkina Faso, and this has to do with extremism activities. And it's not only the terrorist groups, but also this report by Human Rights Watch also indicates that security forces, government security forces also kill, civilians. It's not the first time. And I think maybe some of these killings, especially by security forces, maybe they do happen in the Anglophone region. We know the Anglophone region, Cameroon is divided into two parts. We do have the Francophone region, and then we do have the Anglophone region. And the Anglophone region has been fighting to separate from the larger Cameroon and form their own country called Ambazonia. Okay, so because they've been citing a lot of issues that I think even the people from the IPOB are citing, and that is lack of inequality and systematic marginalization, and are being treated as second-class citizens in their own country. And this something that, the recent, the history of this conflict, it goes way back, over 50 years ago, so I will not even take us back there this afternoon. But the recent rise of this new conflict, I think, started in 2017, when the government made an announcement saying that, all schools and all courts in Cameroon, the teachings should go on in French. And the judicial process and the court proceedings should be taking place in French. But the other side, the Anglophone side, don't speak French at all. They speak English. Part of Cameroon was colonized by the French, the other part by the British. So that's why you see that division. And this, it's on the surface, it looks like it's a language thing, but it's far beyond that. If you could just find time and read through the history and what is happening over there. So that sparked a protest from teachers and lawyers and court officials. And they said, you can't force us. How will I go try a case? How will I go represent my client in court in French? I've never spoken French. I've never been to a French class. I was never taught in French. I don't speak French on my regular days. So how would you now force me to use French? And then, of course, the teachers as well. You're asking us to start teaching in French, and yet we don't speak French. Okay, so that started the protest in 2017, and so there has been several attempts to try to integrate and have Cameroon to be bilingual, where any part of Cameroon you can use both languages, but that has not become a reality, and that is because of the mechanism and the strategy that the government is using to try to enforce this. Okay, they're trying to enforce this upon the people, and especially the people who get to suffer are the people from the Anglophone region. Okay, so that has been a problem, because you've seen a country like, say, Canada. A huge part of Canada speaks in English, another part speaks in French. But so when you go a place where it's dominant, or very important public institutions or places, you'll find if it's, signpost or instructions or information, it's written in both English and French. So it's doable. It's working there. And of course, other countries that are also have embraced several languages as their national, languages. We've seen that even here in Kenya. We do have Kiswahili as our national language, and then we do have English, which is also an official language. So but there are places when you go, especially say to the coast where Kiswahili is predominant, you'll find signs in both Kiswahili and English, and even in a lot of government institutions, you'll find that, because we have to embrace that. But in Cameroon, it's more than just a linguistic problem. Really, it goes deeper, and the people there, when you listen to some of the things, and they're insisting and fighting for. A lot of them are legitimate. And as you speak, I think the leaders are serving a lifetime sentence. I think they were jailed in 2019. The court proceedings took place in the middle of the night. The judgment was given at the wee hours of the morning, and these are civilians who are being tried in a martial court. And that goes against, the international standards of even how to conduct a trial. And then after that, President Paul Biya, who has been in power, who is the second longest serving. The first one is the president of what do you call this country, where the president and then his son is the deputy president. Yes, we do have such ridiculousness in this continent. I'm forgetting its name, but I know Equatorial Guinea. All right, Equatorial Guinea president is the longest serving president in the continent, followed by Paul Biya of Cameroon. I think now he's clocking probably 41 or 42 years in power. He's not even in good health, and the guy does really not care. So perhaps he'll just stay there until when God decides to take him home. Okay, so that has been a problem. And the issues that the people from the Anglophone speaking region, talk about and bring out and complain about are very legitimate. But the government has not made an attempt to try to create a fair table where the stakeholders can come and just listen out what each other is saying. If you insist on solving a certain problem in a way that has not been working as long as, Cameroon has been trying to solve this problem, maybe you need to change tact. Maybe you need to come with an open mind and just listen to what they're saying. If they're telling you we don't even have enough schools for our children, because apparently in the Anglophone speaking region, they don't even have enough schools. And from the last time the reports came there, even other bodies from the United Nations showed that, a lot of schools have been banned. They don't even have health facilities. The infrastructure there is very, very poor. The roads and road networks and other infrastructure, and even getting the government services in that side is not as easier as compared to the French-speaking, the Francophone part. All right, of Cameroon. So there is a huge disparities even as far as, providing services, especially government services to the people. It is not streamlined. It is not the same. And so the Anglophones have been saying, hey, if you really can't treat us in the same manner, if you don't feel like we belong here, how about you just allow us to have a referendum? And then we can go determine our own future. And of course, that has been met with a lot of, might. And it has been an ongoing fight between the government of Cameroon and the Anglophone separatists. And sometimes even they themselves, they get very violent, I think, from a lot of reports that we have received from there. But there's been also, rape has been used as a weapon, and that has been put on, especially the government forces. When they go to those villages, of course, maybe the men they flee, they're not there. So they'll find the women and the children. So what they will do is they will rape the women as a way of punishing them, or as the way of just hurting them. And these are reports that have come out, from there that are not really the best. So hopefully there will come a day where they can really have a space where people can have a talk. Paul Biya attempted to organize a shambolic a national dialogue. Is it in 2020 or 2019? It's been a couple of years, I can't exactly remember, where he said he's organizing a national dialogue and he wants everybody on the table so that they could find a solution. And of course, he came with a bullet point of the things that he wanted, the officials to talk about and the people participating in that talk. Mark you, the leadership of the Anglophone people were not present, as I told you. All their leaders are in jail and now they're serving a life sentence. So if you are really interested in having a national dialogue with an aim of finding an actual solution, then you will have to bring everybody on board. And even the government at some point must make certain concessions so that it is seen to have some good faith. It's coming to the table with some good faith. So if you're having a national dialogue to try to solve a problem with another party, and yet that party is not represented in a way they should, then that is a dialogue that happened. As I said, it was shambolic. We've never had the end of it. We don't know what happened after that. We don't know if the resolutions and the things that, of course, the government prepared, whatever a part of the talks that was supposed to happen, it gave out the agenda. We don't know how far as implementation of the agenda is right now. So as much as, the government of Cameroon wants us to believe things have changed, but things have really remained the same. And the problem with things like this is it does not go away. The same thing with the IPOB. This is an ideology. These are people who believe we are in the wrong country. So, and I think the more you fight them and the more you try to attack them, the more you ignite some fire and they want to fight even more. So now I think sometimes dialogue, if you've used force for quite a while and it's not working, why don't you start by talking? I believe when people sit on a table and talk, somehow you'll find a solution. If people are there with an aim of just hearing each other and hearing what is it that you want and how can we make it better. If you feel that we are treating you in a way that you don't feel that you're part of this bigger community of this country, how can we make it better? How can we change? And maybe just listening to some of the ideas, even from the other side, might help even the government itself to find a solution, okay? Because they're resolute about forming their countries. Okay, so they will fight, they will do whatever. And I think we were having that conversation, especially about Biafra yesterday. And it is the same thing, it is the same call, it is the same issues that is also being pushed with the Anglophones, or as they like to call themselves, the Ambazonians, from Cameroon. Of course, their histories are a bit different because at some point Ambazonia was actually recognized as a country years back. I'll not get into that history right now. But what I would perhaps like happen is just to see dialogue happen in some of these conflict-ridden areas in Africa. Dialogue can go a long way in just minimizing the casualties, the deaths that we see, the distraction, the movement of people being uprooted from their homes. It is unnecessary. So we can sit down and talk and find out what is it. What do you want exactly? And is it something that we can do on our part? Or do we have an alternative solution that, can still make it better for you, as far as that is concerned? But of course, that kind of dialogue has not been welcome, especially in this area. So these killings, these widespread killings and rapes and this, a report from the Human Rights Watch that finds that civilians in Burkina Faso and also in Cameroon, they're suffering. They're suffering from increased attacks by armed Islamist groups and government security forces, which is quite unfortunate. So hopefully this is something that can be looked at and perhaps can be, the government can do something about it. So Mali has decided to withdraw from the G5 Sahel. So this is an alliance that was formed, including 5 countries, that was brought together with an aim of just fighting and tackling Islamist insurgency in the Sahel region. So these countries include Mauritania, Chad, Burkina Faso, and Niger, as well as Mali. But now Mali has decided it's leaving, and that is because I think this G5 alliance was an initiative by France, and so they're feeling that France is perhaps now even using these other countries to try to undermine, Mali. And we know Mali has been besties now with Russia. The mercenaries are there, and they've been helping Mali try to take care of its security after, France took its troops out, and other European Union countries also took its troops out. So Russia is there. The mercenaries, the Wagner Group mercenaries, are in Mali. They have been spotted there, and there has been some scandal around that, about civilians being killed and, mass graves, which Mali will not let, investigators from the UN access and whatnot. And so while a lot of it is just about politics, geopolitical, interest and foreign policy of these European countries, they feel is being threatened also in Mali by the presence of Russia and things like that. But these wars and these proxy wars will prove to be very detrimental as far as the security, which is already very fragile in the Sahel region, is concerned. There has been an increase of these extremist groups, and Sahel region has really suffered. And so this is not the time for Mali to leave the table. That will leave a very big gap, because Mali is a very important player as far as fighting the insurgency in the Sahel region is concerned. So by Mali leaving, it is leaving a huge gap, and it's, that requires all hands to be on deck as far as those countries are concerned, to put their concerted efforts and try to fight, and continue to fight the insurgency that has been very, pervasive in the Sahel region. So Mali, now Niger's president is saying Mali should not be leaving this. He's saying Mali should not be leaving this because that will affect the fight against the insurgents. And Bamako this week announced it was quitting the G5 Sahel after being blocked from assuming the group's rotating presidency. And it's saying it was refused. This was because there was an influence. It is saying from a country. Of course, we know it is France. We know it is France that maybe, influenced the other countries to not give the rotational, group presidency to Mali right now because of the obvious reasons and the obvious developments that we've seen in Mali in the recent past. But I don't know why France, okay, fine. I don't know. Yes, I do know. Of course, France has a lot of interest, especially as far as its former colonies are concerned, and majority of these are France's former colonies. And so as much as France is there to help and fight the insurgency, they are also there to look after their own interest. We know France's economy is highly supported by these countries from Africa, so it is their bread and butter. So France still needs to hold on very tightly in its control of these countries. And I think Mali had enough of that. Whether there's other influence, from France and from Russia or other quarters. But Mali has expressed that, it has had enough of that. And, the leaders that France makes sure are presidents in these countries, in fact, their former colonies, they make sure they get a friendly leader to their regime there in Paris so that they can continue doing whatever it is that they do. So I don't know why France feels it has to continue, controlling and playing the master puppet behind the scenes and how some of these affairs are run. If you're supporting the fight against insurgency, fine, you do that. If you feel because, Mali is now playing ball with Russian mercenaries and you don't want to be part of it, and you've decided to pack up and ship out, you do that. And of course, Mali, I think, also had the the France ambassador to Mali, I think, leave, and other officials. And so it has been a proxy war there that is ongoing outside of the actual war that they are fighting against insurgency in that region. And I think this proxy war will prove to be very detrimental and will not be for the good of the people in the Sahel region and those countries that really need to be working together right now as far as that fight is concerned. Okay. I think I need to go now. Thank you so much for your time. This has been Diaspora Dispatches. My name is Miriam Ogoto. It has been a pleasure. I'll see you tomorrow, God willing. Bye-bye for now.